All right. I think we're going to go ahead and get started just to be respectful of the time for folks who are here right on time. Thanks to all of you who were, and thanks to all of you who are here, regardless of when you popped on. So welcome to Capitol Hill Days 2023. My name is Rebecca Harrington. I'm the Senior Director of Advocacy and Outreach for Population Connection and Population Connection Action Fund. Super glad to be here with you all in our virtual space. Looking forward to seeing folks in person again someday, but this is great too for now. I will soon be turning it over to my colleague Grace, our field coordinator, who is mostly in charge today. But just a few quick administrative things. As Grace mentioned in the email she sent out to all of you that you all should have received, we're doing today's session in a trivia game style format. So we'll be asking trivia questions that you all will have a minute to answer in the form of a poll, which will pop up as a dialog box on your screen. We'll give you a minute to answer those. And then we'll go in order and have go through our speakers and have them speak, answer the question, and then also expand upon the work that they do and issues of international family planning and population and conservation. So that's kind of how today will work. We will have prizes for the top three winners, which we'll send to you after today. Let's see, anything else? Feel free to use the chat for questions or comments, or just to kind of, if you want to use it to get to know one another, that's fine too. As Grace mentioned, we are going to be recording this session. We are recording it now. If you're not comfortable having your face recorded, just go ahead and turn your camera off. And then finally, in an email Grace just sent out, a final reminder email, she included a consent form, which we just share with folks for any virtual events. No rush on doing that. If you're able to send it back to us, before the end of the lobby day on Friday, that would be great. It's an editable PDF form. So you should be able to edit it directly on your computer and send it back to us. But any issues with that, feel free to just email Grace or message me in the chat, and I can help you figure it out. All right, I think with that, we are going to go ahead and get the trivia game started. Grace, can I kick it to you?
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. So we are going to start with our very first question, which is, when it's in place, the global gag rule blocks U.S. federal funding for non-governmental organizations that A, offer abortion services, B, refer or counsel patients about seeking abortions, C, advocate to decriminalize abortion, or D, all of the above. I'm gonna give y'all a couple more seconds to put in your answers. Getting a lot of D's, very into the all of the above answer. Alrighty, we're gonna do 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, everybody. And I am going to kick it to Melvine, who is going to provide us the answer and share a little bit about herself and her work.
Thank you, Grace. And the answer is D, all of the above. So yeah, as Grace has mentioned, my name is Melvine Ouyo, and I am a population and reproductive health and policy expert, and also I am the founder of Okong'o Slum Adolescents Initiative. I have in the past 5 or so years worked on the campaign Fight for Her with Population Connection Action Fund. And the question about the global gag rule has really been my main assignment of evaluation. And I have seen from the data that I have collected and the interviews that I have done that when the global gag rule is in place, actually one of the things that happen to organizations that receive funding, USAID funding, is that most of them are not able to provide abortion services, or they do that with the limitation because they lack the resources, because these are funds that have been withdrawn whenever the global gag rule is in place. And more so, most of the organizations have even been forced to close down their facilities. I remember in 2017, one of the main, the founding organization in reproductive health and family planning in Kenya, Family Health Options Kenya, closed down several of its clinics simply because they will not receive funding, and the funding they received earlier from the USAID funding were withdrawn. And so for that reason, they could not sustain their services or even keep the staff that they worked with previously, and that forced them to close some of their clinics. The other thing that has happened when the global gag rule is in place is that even speaking about abortion is a really big issue, especially in environments where people or organizations feel like they are labeled as abortion providers. And in Kenya, that happened really during that era when, I'll say, when Trump was in office, because this is when the global gag rule was in, the recent global gag rule was in place. And we saw discrimination amongst the civil society organizations, because those that provided abortion services were labeled as abortion providers or as killers. And so there were those disintegration in terms of collaboration and partnerships amongst civil society organizations. And even just referring from those organizations that did not provide abortion services, it was really difficult for them even referring patients or clients seeking abortion care to providers that provided abortion services. And so because of that, it even created an environment in countries like Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, environment that was really hostile, that even speaking about abortion services was really hard. And additionally, this has impacted even on some of the policies that are formulated in most of the countries. I'll give an example of Kenya. We recently wanted to review and come up with a new policy on SRH, our reproductive health policy. And it was really a big problem, just accepting some of the messaging in the policy, in that some of the words were even deleted by the auditors, because the editors of the document, because they didn't want, or they were instructed to deliberately delete or eliminate some of the messaging or some of the terminologies in the policy. And this even cost the government to launch that particular policy in secrecy. Some of us didn't even know the policy was being launched. It was being formulated and developed under I'll say safety and caution, and that we would not even have access to what was being done until the time when it was now launched. We just heard that the policy has been launched. It has made conversations even around adolescent and youth SRH policy so difficult that even that policy is yet to be launched, but is still under discussions. The same has also been reflected, and even my colleague from Tanzania will confirm that it has really been difficult, even at the East African community, discussing issues around the SRH East African bill. Every time it's brought into the parliament, it is just pushed back. There has been pushbacks all the time, and that makes it really difficult to discuss issues around abortion. And sadly, when the global gag rule is in place, it impacts negatively also on other SRH services, to include even screening and treatment for STIs, HIV, and even screening for reproductive health cancers. And if you take an example of a clinic or a facility that has closed down, this is a facility that does not necessarily just provide abortion services. It provides a range of services, including even treatment for tropical diseases like malaria, and even the non-communicable diseases. But then when that facility is closed down, it just means that then all the rest of the services that will be available at that particular clinic or facility are no longer available to the community within that area or to the people that previously benefited from these services. And currently what we are seeing now is like recently in Uganda passed a law to ban same-sex marriage or relationships. And that is also now being discussed in Kenya's parliament, simply because they're gagging everything around SRH, like they relate it to abortion. And every time we have this policy in place, it impacts on all other entities around SRH. And that is how difficult or terrible the global gag rule is on other SRH services and even information. Like in Kenya currently, it's difficult to discuss comprehensive sexuality education in schools. I'm glad Dickson is here. They try to use a formula to reach their community or to reach young people in the schools around their community, because it was really important, or it's really important, that young people get this information early enough, because if they don't get the information, then they engage in sexual activities without protection, without information on what needs to be done. And they end up getting unplanned pregnancies that lead into deaths or other complications. And so because of the gag rule, I'll say it impacts negatively on so many other SRH services as well as information. I don't know if that is exhaustive for that particular question, Grace. I'm happy to be guided by you.
That was incredible, Melvine. Thank you so much. I also have the next question will also be answered by you. Let me share my screen again.
And read that for you, Grace, if that's
Thank
helpful.
you so much.
All right. So just a reminder that the correct answer to the first question was D, all of the above. And now we'll move on to the second question, which is, what is the leading cause of death worldwide for girls aged 15 to 19? And the options are A, infectious diseases, B, traffic accidents, C, complications from pregnancy and childbirth, or D, dehydration. And I'll repeat that. What is the leading cause of death worldwide for girls aged 15 to 19? A, infectious diseases, B, traffic accidents, C, complications from pregnancy and childbirth, and D, dehydration. We'll give folks about 15 more seconds. All right. Correct answer is C, complications from pregnancy and childbirth. And I'll go back and kick that back to Melvine so she can talk a little bit more about this.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, and the correct answer is C, complications of pregnancy and labor and delivery related complications. I mean, when you look at the demographic, look at that age group. A 15-year-old girl should be a well girl, schooling, planning to go to college. And we're looking at, in Kenya, those are still children until they're 18 years. But One of the major complications that results from this is usually, among this group, is usually complications of labor and delivery and pregnancy. Of course, abortion, unsafe abortion. What has happened in the recent past is that because of some of the policies in most countries or restrictive laws in our countries, those girls at that age, they're trying to explore, understand, and they're sexually active at that time. And they engage in unprotected sex, they engage in intimate relationships without information, without knowledge on how they need to go about that. So many are the times that these girls end up in complications because what you have seen, like recently, I was in one of the counties in Kenya where girls must be circumcised. And when they're circumcised at that age, from their teenage age to when they're now graduating to adulthood, they are allowed, or they're supposed to be called mature girls because they have been circumcised or they have undergone female genital mutilation. And sometimes in some of the communities, they are exposed to men to test their fertility. And what happens is they end up getting pregnant, and these are pregnancies they didn't plan for. And they end up with early childbearing, which is a major issue. You can imagine someone who's had female genital mutilation. They are still young. They are not, their physical maturity, I mean, they still need to mature before they can become mothers. For some of us mothers who've gone through labor and delivery, and especially for normal labor and delivery, that process needs maturity of the body, the organs, and the mind. But imagine those young girls who are forced to carry on the pregnancy to term, they're forced to deliver, they're forced to become mothers at that age. Many times they go through those complications of labor, sometimes obstructed labor, sometimes they get fistulas that complicate their lives, and they end up even not accessing treatment early. That complicates them even further. Many times, these girls, when they get pregnant, and they have to get rid of the pregnancies because of the restrictive laws, they are forced to seek care, clandestine care from quacks and people who are not qualified. And sometimes they get medication, they get prescriptions from friends and peers who tell them anything. Like in some countries, I have learned some girls use cola, some girls use ash, some girls use paracetamol, they take overdose of drugs, and they end up getting complications of unsafe abortion. So that is really the major problem. And it applies even to the elderly women. Many times, mortalities result from complications of pregnancy, labor, and delivery. I recently saw a girl, a 13-year-old girl, because she was raped. She was forced to carry the pregnancy. She ended up delivering twins. And sadly, she was infected with HIV. This is a case of last month when I visited one county in Kenya. And just to wonder how someone would expect a 13-year-old girl, my daughter is 13, and I felt so much pain thinking how this girl who is still in primary school should be a mother, taking care of her HIV, taking care of twins, and living in poverty. I mean, sometimes these things are really traumatizing, and you feel like you should reverse the role so that men who are responsible for some of these things or for the pregnancy should take charge and carry the pregnancies and deliver. So you imagine compounding HIV in the age where a 13-year-old is not even mature enough, her bones are still weak, she will have complications, even carrying twins, you know? So really, at that particular age, the main challenge or the main cause of mortality is complications from pregnancy, labor, and delivery. Thank you, Rebecca. Back to you.
You're still muted, Rebecca.
Sorry. I think we can have some additional time at the end for questions if folks have more questions for Melvine or would like her to expand upon anything else. All right, so just to recap, the answer to the last question was C, complications from pregnancy and childbirth. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question, excuse me, which is, Stretcher's youth organization works to create a healthy society for youth and women in Kenya's coastal counties. They do this by promoting A, health and well-being, B, democracy and good governance, C, human rights and gender equality, or D, all of the above. And I'll repeat that quickly. Stretcher's youth organization works to create a healthy society for youth and women in Kenya's coastal counties. They do this by promoting A, health and well-being, B, democracy and good governance, C, human rights and gender equality, or D, all of the above. All right. We are going to go ahead and the correct answer there, and we'll put up a slide in a bit, is D, all of the above. And to expand on that further and to hear some other things about Stretchers, I'm going to turn it over to Dickson, the Executive Director of Stretchers Youth Organization. Dickson, whenever you're ready.
You're muted. That's why we can't hear you. No, still can't hear you. No.
Just
There
you go.
There you go. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much, and sorry for that.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the question. And to respond to the question is all of the above. And before I start responding to it, I just have to appreciate Melvine Ouyo for just demystifying everything, for just giving the context of the Kenya, because we relate very well with her because we are coming from the same geographical area. And I know she has been very supportive to our side. So I'm Dickson Okong'o from Stretchers Youth Organization. I work at Stretchers Youth Organization. I'm the founder and currently the executive director. And Stretchers Youth Organization is a youth-led community-based organization that was founded in the year 2011 towards ensuring that we have a healthy society where every youthful voice counts. So as an institution, we work in 3 thematic areas. The first one being on health and well-being. And on health and well-being, we have a lot of interventions on sexual reproductive health and rights. And basically, some of the challenges that Melvine was articulating as an institution, we have gone through them. And that is why when she talked about an innovative intervention to ensure that we reach so many young people, I'm sorry for the background noise, children just playing next to my door, sorry for that. So one of the key things that you notice that where we are coming from is that access to information is still a challenge in our community. But at the same time, there are certain information the government tend to gag us from speaking about them in a way that you see these young people engaging in sexual activities, you see these adolescents engaging in sexual activities, but you cannot go to school and speak about them because they feel like when you package that you want to talk about sexuality, they feel like you are coming to teach the young people about sexual intercourse. So the other intervention that we have used as an institution under these thematic areas, we came up with an innovation called Community Talking Box. These are talking box whereby it is a replica of a suggestion box where we have placed them in schools, and replacing them in schools, it enables these young people to be able to write any concerns that affect them without, it is an incognito form, whereby they are able to write the issues, then place them. Then we as a Stretchers Youth Organization, together with school health coordinators, can go visit, open the community talking box, read the concerns, then try to address each of them after another. And one thing that is very evident that is coming out from such interventions, that there is a need to talk about issues about sexuality to these young people, but still it becomes very challenging for us to talk about them. So maybe what does it mean? We have to organize a community outreach, target these young people when they're out of school, to ensure that we engage them during holidays. And sometimes it's too late to engage these young people during holidays, because sometimes others are engaged in sexual activities, some are pregnant, some tend to go to quack doctors to try to do abortion, which is something also, we are coming from a community, I'm from Mombasa County, and here religious leaders are very categorically clear that on such conversation, they don't want to be involved. So it becomes very hectic to have conversation sometimes on issues around sexuality. Then secondly, as institution, we work on issues around democracy and good governance. We know that everything starts with the policies. Everything starts with governance. How do we ensure that we bring the young people we work with them? How do we ensure that they are part and parcel in any decision that are being made concerning their lives? How do you ensure that these young people participate in policies that affect their lives? Like currently in our country, Kenya, each and every county are in the process of developing the third generation of CIDP. A CIDP basically will entail what county government will be doing for the next 5 years. But here, if young people are not that does not participate in such forum, in such processes of development of policies, then there's where now there's a disconnect whereby young people are not meaningfully involved, because we understand that issues that affect young people can well be articulated by them themselves. So for us as an institution, under democracy, you know, last year we had a heated debate concerning elections. We ensure that we mobilize young people to participate, because it is their democratic right, according to Article 38 of the Kenyan Constitution, them participating in election, them participating in any political processes, and also it is their democratic right, because I do tell young people that each and every right comes with responsibility. Yeah, it is our right to participate in this governance. What about our responsibility? Our responsibility is ensuring that also we contribute, we give more concerns, we give more ideas when it comes to policy formulation, and also when it comes to other concerns. Then lastly, on our third thematic area is on human rights and gender mainstreaming. I know we are coming from a situation whereby there's a lot of human rights violation. There's an issue concerning young people being violated, their rights being violated. So how do we see ourselves coming together and empowering young people to understand their rights, and empowering each and every gender to participate? Because we know a society that respects gender is a more developed society. It's a society that will ensure that everybody is respected. There's a lot of equality to ensure that each and every young person participate on issues that affect themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dickson. We're going to have another question that's going to be for you. So I'll kick it back to you in a minute, but first I'm just going to give folks a chance to read and respond. So just as a reminder, the correct answer to the last question was D, all of the above. And then we're going to have another question for Dickson popping up in just a minute. All right. Population Connection has supported Stretchers Youth Organization sexual and reproductive health and rights work for the last 3 years. Each year's project has a different name. Please name the current project Stretchers is implementing that is supported by Population Connection. A, Adolescent Girls on Transformative Advocacy, AGOTA. Adolescent and Youth Empowerment for Health Advocacy Project, excuse me. Dickson, please correct me if I pronounce this incorrectly. Kijana Imarika Bonga Elimika. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, that's correctly.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't want to get it wrong. Or D, We Lead. Give folks a minute to answer. Right, just a few more seconds to give folks a chance to finish answering. All right, Dickson, we're going to kick it back to you to speak more on that question.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. The correct answer is Adolescent Youth Empowerment for Health Advocacy Project. We call it abbreviation is AYEHA. We are glad that since 2020, Population Connection have been supporting our SRHR programs in Kenya. And we thank we meeting with Melvine Ouyo, who have introduced us to Population Connection. And since then, we have done amazing work with the on SRHR programming. So currently we are implementing that AYEHA, which is an active project. And this project is implemented in schools, whereby we are engaging these adolescent and young people in schools on issues around sexuality, around life skills, around them making informed decisions. Because like I said, sometimes there's a need to provide access to the right information to our adolescent and young people, because this is the major thing that you realize it is promoting. If there's no more information, that is why we are having a lot of cases of teenage pregnancies, because these young people lack the right information to make informed decisions about their life. They lack the right information, either when it comes to career development, where they lack the right information on how to, on issues to be assertive on life skills. So that is the current project we are implementing. And we say like most of the projects that were mentioned there, these are projects that we have implemented like Kijana, Imarika, Bonga, Elimika. It was through this project that we founded what we call Community Talking Box. And now this year, it was easier for us to start having a pilot project in schools to engage these adolescent and young people on issues that affect them, and to ensure that how do you also, the concerns that come from the Community Talking Box, how do we forward them to the key policymakers? How do we forward them to the key decision makers? How do we ensure that we promote children to parents engagement? Because it is coming out clearly that these young people go through a lot, but there's nobody, even they're not free to talk to their parents. The key concerns about mental health. These young people are going a lot through a lot of mental illness, but nobody's there to speak to them. So we are glad that through this project, such issues are coming out and we are addressing them with the key government agencies that can respond to them. And we can see for the last 12 months, we have seen a tremendous change and even improvement to the 11 schools that we have worked in. And we are hoping that this partnership will continue with population and more other partners to ensure that we continue reaching so many young people. I know we cannot change the entire world or the entire everybody, but the few individuals that we can engage, the few individuals that we can have an impact in their life matters a lot into our daily interventions. And through that, we have seen we supporting the county government towards development, what we call AYP strategy. This is adolescent and young people strategy on sexual reproductive health and HIV. We have also supported counties towards development, the costed implementation plan for family planning. And we have ensured that now we have a network of over 80 youth organizations that we are mentoring towards championing on issues around SRHR in our community. And I know we are hoping that we continue increasing the number, ensuring that we reach so many young people. And we are glad that through our intervention also, we have been able to advocate for more youth-friendly facilities, which we are glad that we are having. We are seeing our county coming up with a number of youth-friendly facilities to ensure that young people are able to go and seek services and get the right services to the youth-friendly service providers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dickson, for that answer and that information, and also for all of your amazing work. It's always such a pleasure to hear about it. We'll have time at the end, again, to ask Dickson any additional questions folks have, but we're going to move on. And just to repeat, the correct answer to that last question was B. The Adolescent and Youth Empowerment for Health Advocacy Project is the current project that Stretchers is working on in collaboration with Population Connection. All right, on to the next question. This is a true or false. True or false? Sexual and reproductive health and rights programs targeting men aren't effective. True or false? Again, the question is true or false? Sexual and reproductive health and rights programs targeting men aren't effective. True or false? I'll give folks a minute to answer. I'll wait about 15 more seconds. I think most people have put in based on the poll.
I have submitted the response. That is false.
Thank you, Cuthbert.
Yes, my name is Cuthbert Maendaenda. I'm the director of a national NGO that works to promote sexual and reproductive health and rights and access to economic and socioeconomic empowerment of men and women, but we intervene through men. We started as a project of sexual reproductive health in 2005, targeting men and boys in partnership with IPPF member associations of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Zambia. So in Kenya, I have worked in Kisumu, Nyando, Homa Bay, and Bondo for 5 years. And we were targeting men in male-dominated institutions, like in Chemelil Sugar Company, and in Usenge in Bondo, we were working, targeting men in the fishing camps and others. So after implementing this project, we called it YMEP, Young Men as Equal Partners. We realized that sexual and reproductive health and rights of women and girls, it depends much upon knowledge or awareness, attitudes, behaviors, and decisions that are being taken by their sexual counterparts, that men and boys. For that reason, we included adult men, and we expanded the project in Tanzania, which was funded by SIDA Sweden. So after we implemented in 2 regions of Tanzania, and we had a community mobilization project activities, and we were linking with schools and health facilities to promote access to youth-friendly services and also male-friendly services. Because the nature of our health facilities, they were designed to save women. And that's why if you go to our clinics, even if there are no gents, you see? So sometimes when men are asked to go to clinics, they say, but there are no gents at those facilities because they were meant to cater for women. And I'm saying these programs are effective because of, amongst other social norms we have. In many tribes in Tanzania, even in our neighboring countries or many African countries, men are the final say. And when it comes to issues related to health, women access more information than men, because men, there is this type of stereotype that men are strong. And for that reason, they should not, they don't feel that they can fall sick. And if they fall sick, they don't say. So we were targeting men, first, men as clients, because men, they also have their own unmet SRH needs. And we're also targeting men, as partners to women. And the third approach we used was to target men as agents of change to fellow men. And what we realized that we cannot work with men without incorporating the issue of gender and women empowerment, because men tend to regard
gender as a women issue. And for that reason, they were not ready to participate in anything to do with gender education or women empowerment. They were feeling as if women, they want to take their positions. So we started intervening on men and to integrate gender. For example, most of the time we talk about safer sex, for example, using condoms, but we hardly talk about challenges that men and women are facing, especially women, in accessing condoms, in keeping condoms, and in using condoms. Because the value have been like men should have condoms and not women. And for that reason, when they go for sex, if a man did not bring in condoms, it means it's going to be unprotected sex. So we had to talk to men to also address their issues. And right now, the issue of male protest has taken a big ground in our country. And for us to be able to bring in the government officials, for example, we are working in very close collaboration with community development department and also the health department. So we were integrating other development issues along with the intervention of SRA targeting men. For example, we were incorporating issues to do with the population and urbanization to let even the government feel that, oh, one strategy we can have to respond to challenges related to overpopulation like deforestation, shortage of water, or damage to water sources, etc., is to also bring in men, because these men, they're the one who must go to burn charcoal in the forests as their source of income. And also they came to realize, for example, in a region like Rukwa, where we worked, there was high prevalence of gender-based violence, especially during harvest season, because these men, they were bringing conflicts in their families so that women walk out of the house and then they remain behind and sell all the harvest they had. And then during farming season, they go and apologize to their spouses. Oh, please come back. The house is empty, but they want them to come and do the work in the farms. So to show that the program of targeting, it has impact. For example, at the beginning of the project, we had a study, a baseline study, and we looked at inequitable and other gender norms. For example, after 5 years of project implementation, we realized that men disagreeing that women carrying condoms are easygoing, who disagree, they increased from 47% to 70% in that region. Likewise, men disagreeing women should tolerate violence so as to keep the family together. So those who disagree, they increase from 18% to 45%. Men disagreeing that at times women need to be beaten, those who disagree, they increased from 46% to 73%. And men who are aware that women have the right to decide if they do not want to have sex, it increased from 59% to 91%. So these are examples of how program targeting men can bring impact.
Thank you, Cuthbert. That was really illuminating. Looking forward to hearing more from you. So we have another question for Cuthbert. First, just reiterating that the correct answer to the last question was false. And now we have another question that will be directed towards you, Cuthbert. So the question is, before the Tanzania Men as Equal Partners project began in 2010, men in the, can you tell me how to pronounce that? Nkasi?
Nkasi district.
Nkasi. Okay, thank you. Men in the Nkasi district tended to control matters relating to sexual and reproductive health, political participation, and family budgets. TMEP addressed these problems by A, giving up immediately, B, educating communities about gender issues, C, challenging local officials to integrate TMEP concepts, or D, both B and C. We'll give folks about 20 more seconds to answer that.
Yeah, the answer is D, B, and C. Educating communities about gender issues, as well as challenging local officials to integrate gender concepts. In fact, there were, as I've said, there were anecdotal evidence from government leaders, community development officers, religious leaders, and other stakeholders who reported observing decreasing gender-based violence in the communities and also improving marriage stability as a result of changing gender norms that accepted empowerment of women in decision-making, in social and economic development at family level, a development that motivated government in the region to continue integrating gender equality, equity, and male involvement in their development plans. And in fact, we have taken those lessons at a national level to advocate for integration of male involvement into national plans. And we have managed to pursue the Ministry of Health to revise sexual and reproductive health policy guidelines to include issues of male involvement and gender and women empowerment. The Ministry of Health, they have now developed a training guide to promote male engagement in sexual reproductive health and other development plans. And that's why, even at the end of the project, after 5 years of the project, when you wanted to close the project, the communities in those regions, they said, no, but the problems are still there. We want this initiative to continue. So what we did was to transform the project into an organization. So from TMEP, it became Tanzanian Men as Equal Partners in Development, TMEP. So now we are addressing issues beyond sexual reproductive health to include economic empowerment, so that if these women and girls, they get their own income, they can access health services. If they want to access abortion services or post-abortion care, they can be able to do it because they have their own money. And last year, we had our national population census, which showed that the population in Tanzania is growing very fast. And the president now, he even said, I think we need to look at our speed. Compared to the late president whom we had 6 years ago, because that man was a pronatalist. For him, he was called Mr. Magufuli. He was like, bear many children as you can. You have to bear, because even the word of God is saying you should go and multiply. But now, and we reached a point we could not even talk about family planning, let alone talking about abortion, as Melvine and Dickson were saying in Kenya, that we share there. But in Tanzania, we came upon even to talk about family planning. But because we had engaged men, and the men, they started feeling the pressure of having many children. So they said, no, we want to plan our families. So now the doors are open from the government because the president we have right now, who is a lady, female president, and she is very much concerned with issues of women, girls, and children. And she has even brought back girls who had dropped from school because of pregnancy. Now they are allowed to get back to school after delivery. So sexual reproductive health services in Tanzania is taking a new ground. And in the TMEPID, we have the methodologies. We know how to talk to men, how to engage men. But the challenge we have is we do not have adequate resources to expand, to let many organizations copy or adapt approaches that we use in reaching out to men and boys. So in brief, let me conclude by saying we have evidence, quantitative and qualitative, to confirm that programs targeting men and boys are effective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cuthbert. And as with the other speakers, we will have time at the end for Q&A with all of our speakers. So if you have additional questions, keep dropping them in the chat and we'll talk about them at the end. And just to recap, the correct answer to the last question was D, both B and C. Our next question will be directed towards our other guest, Sara. And the question is, Women for Conservation and their partner organization, Pro Aves, collaborated with local women leaders to establish a network of nature reserves in Colombia. In doing so, what bird species were they able to save from the brink of extinction? A, the blue-footed pelican, B, the yellow-eared parrot, C, the red-crested macaw, or D, the white-tailed peacock? We'll give folks about a minute to answer. About 20 more seconds. All right. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sara from Women for Conservation to talk more about that and their other wonderful work. Sara, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. And the correct answer is the yellow-eared parrot. It's an endemic species to Colombia, South America. And it was under the IUCN Red List, listed as a critical endangered species, with only 81 birds in the wild when we started working the project. And I'm happy to report that as today, and just when we finalized the national census 2 days ago, we are very happy to report that over 3,000 parrots are in the wild. And this that is now downlisted the bird to vulnerable, which is a huge success and conservation success that we are very proud. And I myself, I work with our partner Pro Aves in Colombia and Women for Conservation. And what we've been doing is to highlight the role of women in conservation and what they can do from where they are. One of the big components that we do is empowering women. First of all, giving access to family planning and talking about their role and providing them with knowledge, as some of the presenters talk about. It's very important to provide technical support and knowledge of the biodiversity, but also how women can be a key actors. Connecting the dots between family planning, conservation, and biodiversity has been key on developing this project. We went and assessed the threats, came out with what they were the solutions and how we could do it, and involving women since the very beginning with projects that we were targeting, designed with them and implemented by them with the support of the organization was crucial. And changing these threats, changing the behavior and the destructive cycle was a huge success. And it took us 20 years to get to this wonderful time where we can say, yeah, we can slow down with extinction, and how we can continue to empower the new generation and young generation of women and children who are coming behind and unfortunately have huge challenges. Women for Conservation, this is what we've been doing. It started as a project, and now is a nonprofit organization, because we've seen that these models can be replicated in many places, in many countries, and give women the opportunity to be involved in saving and rescuing species is so important, and you have to do it quickly. And starting with the access to family planning is the first step. I have to tell you that it's been very difficult. I'm in both worlds, talking about reproductive rights, which is a whole scope, and also talking about conservation. And sometimes it's not easy to navigate the waters of conservation, especially when it's an issue that a lot of organizations don't want to touch, don't want to discuss. But in my opinion, is the first thing that we need to talk. And working with the Parrot and the urgency that we have shows that we need to start to address the lack of education and the lack of access to reproductive and family planning that the communities are having. So what we've been doing is talking about the reality at the front line of conservation, how we can start breaking taboos, start changing cultural behaviors, like engaging men. Most of the time, the conservation work is carried out by men, and bringing down barriers and just being a channel for communication has been very important. So first of all, the bird opened the doors, because we all love the bird. Colombia is a #1 country for birds in the world, which is something to be very proud. But also Colombia has been very well known for other things that are not so positive. So with birds, we go to incredible places of high biodiversity, but we need to work with these communities. And we've seen that if we all come together and then we start addressing the threats, work with men, women, youth, and giving them these resources, we can start helping species. And the yellow-eared parrot is one really, really great example where the communities came together, also the Catholic Church, because in Palm Sunday, the tradition was to have a front of the palm, the wax palm, in the processions. And unfortunately, the palm was getting extinct because it was used for this traditional religious procession. So when we talk to also the church and everyone else, it just changed the attitude, and it actually now is illegal to cut the palm, and the church joined the efforts, and now they invite the congregation to use alternative ways and other things to use in the procession. So it's been a fantastic example. When we are going to now talking to them about family planning and the role of women, is being compared to what it was 15 years ago when we started to today, is a huge change. I know it's still challenging and it's still difficult, but before it was even worse in the places where we were working. And now, to our surprise, we have more and more women coming to join us on our family planning healthcare sessions, access to family planning, and the men are joining us. So for the first time, this last year, we had men who wanted to join with vasectomies. And for us, it was a stretch. I could not believe it, but we were very, very happy that they joined. And as an act of love for the wife, for nature, and helping everyone helping out to protect these species, the yellow-eared parrot. And under the umbrella of these species, we are working with many more in Colombia, and promoting the importance to act now, how we can continue to empower women. We focus on sustainable living, creating opportunities for them to receive the skills, the training to set up a business that in harmony with the environment, provide this financial independence that women need to continue to grow and expand also in their own personal path, and revert everything to the well-being of the families and the careers, and could be in conservation, but in other areas. So everything this happened under the umbrella of one species, and what we're doing is replicating this, getting more women and young girls excited about being in the field, being educated about wildlife and conservation, and not being scared or ashamed to talk about family planning, or because this has to be, the taboo has to be removed completely. And if we keep talking more and more, I think it's the only way. So that's what we've been doing. And now very happy that our work is expanded to Sierra Leone and Madagascar, and hopefully will continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sara. And it's so great to hear about all of those successes. Yeah, that's really wonderful. Thank you. And just to repeat, the correct answer to the last question was B, the yellow-eared parrot. So we're going to have another question for Sara. This is a true or false question. True or false, the UN has recognized women's empowerment as essential to protecting the Earth's biodiversity. True or false? We'll give you about a minute again. About 30 more seconds. All right. I'm gonna kick it back to Sara to speak more on that.
Okay. So the answer is correct, it's true. So which is fantastic to have this frame at the international level where we operate, making sure that people know, and that with this tool that we can also utilize to talk to our constituency, the general public, but highlight the role of women and the gender equality and the role that they have in protecting the environment. It's crucial. We are in a very difficult time when more than 1 million of species are under threat of extinction. And we all know that the women is more than half of the population. And also women suffer incredibly terrible circumstances when it is disasters that we are experimenting more and more. Often and with more intensity. So focusing on women's empowerment and the role that they have in protecting the environment is crucial. And this is the time to act and have more organizations and individuals join the cause and join the movement. It's terrifying to see the habitat deforestation and habitat loss all across the tropics and in the world, but the tropics that host the highest biodiversity concentration is being deforested and destroyed very fast, and that is also linked to population. We can't deny that there is this correlation, and it's another sensitive issue that a lot of people don't want to talk openly sometimes. but there is this direct correlation on the use of the natural resources and the population growth. So having the women put in a good place where we have a key role is crucial. We're inviting and creating spaces with our organization through workshops, and also partnering with women at the front line, giving them this push or this safety net where they can go and lead their own small projects, but with big impacts, and showcase stories of women forest guards or women who are actually taking the lead is so important, and it proves and reiterates how important it is to have women involved in the environment, in sustainability, doing conservation. And the more is positive cases that we can show and stories and put these incredible women at the front line and on the spotlight, it will encourage more and more to take action. We are running out of time for some species. Unfortunately, in my country, we know that species who are very, very few individuals, maybe 30 to 50 individuals, is a matter of time. If we don't take quick action, we're gonna be talking about extinction faster than we can even think. So that's why Women for Conservation, we are in remote areas with rural women where resources are very, very scarce, and access to family planning and also information about the species is very difficult to obtain. But nevertheless, the challenges of sometimes conflict in the country, because there are areas where we have that situation, or the threats of illegal mining or illegal activities is also to take into account, and the lack of access to information. But nevertheless, we are dedicated to promote the role of women and how we can shift the course like we did with the yellow-eared parrot. And this is through having more women and, of course, more men who support women. And we are pushing in that same direction.
Thank you, Sara, and thank you so much for making the really important connections for us between family planning, women's empowerment, conservation. Can be really complicated to sort of think about it and talk about it concisely. So really, really great to have your perspective. And just to reiterate, the correct answer to that last question was true. We're going to move on to a couple of questions. Just a quick note here. We were supposed to be joined by Estelle Raboni, who is on the board of directors of our Population Connection C3 organization. And she also runs a number of programs through New York City around comprehensive sex education and reproductive health. And she does work with New York City's Abortion Access Fund. She was really sad to not be able to join us, but something popped up for her last minute and she wasn't able to make it. So I'm going to run through the questions we had for her. We'll say just briefly talk about what's happening here in the U.S. And then we'll use the time Estelle would have spoken to have some extra Q&A time. So throw in any questions you have on the what's happening domestically, and Grace, Marion, and I will do our best to answer. So the first question about what's happening here in the U.S. is, what did the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization mean for abortion rights in the U.S.? A, abortion is banned nationwide. B, states have the power to legislate abortion. C, only the federal government can legislate abortion. Or D, abortion access is a constitutionally protected right. And as always, we'll give you a minute to answer. All right. And the correct answer there is B. States have the power to legislate abortion. We'll go ahead to the next question. All right, question 10. How many US states currently have abortion bans in place? A, 7, B, 10, C, 13, or D, 50? Right, about another 30 seconds. All right. And the correct answer is C, 13 states. So I don't want to take too much time. I want to leave some time for Q&A, but just quickly, I think probably everyone on this call is very well aware that the abortion access landscape in the United States right now is terrible. The overturning of Roe v. Wade last summer was a really terrible moment in our country's history and in the history of reproductive health in this country. And it started like a cascading effect of either total bans, which is what's happening in 13 states, or partial bans and other types of restrictions, which are popping up in many more states. So Marian is just shared in the chat a breakdown of abortion bans in the United States from the Guttmacher Institute, if you want to check that out. There's a lot of fervor right now from the extreme far right Republican Party in this country, politicians who are trying to get rid of access to reproductive health care around the world are the same ones who are trying to get rid of abortion in the United States and ultimately contraception as well. They just kind of want to eliminate all those rights. So if you have, I want to move on to Q&A. If our speakers and folks on the call are able to stay on a few extra minutes beyond 1:30, we could have, since there's a smaller group, we could continue having a chat. If folks have to drop off, that's fine too. But want to go ahead and share some of these questions folks asked. Joanna had a couple of questions. I'm going to condense, Joanna, a couple of them because they were about specific regions. So Joanna wants to know, does Population Connection work in South and Central America? And do we work in the Middle East? Marian, do you want to answer that one? Or do you want me to? Either way.
Sure, I can. Yeah, so we have 19 global partners right now. Population Connection doesn't provide any direct healthcare services, just to make that clear. But we do work with 19 international partners that are located in Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Nepal, I think, is the only country in Asia, and we don't have any partners currently in the Middle East. And I can put a link to all of our partners in the chat too, if you're curious to read about them more. We've got little blurbs about each one. Olivia, who's our communications manager, has been, sorry, I'm looking for a link at the same time as I'm talking. She has been doing Q&As with all of the different global partners so that we have blog posts about almost all of them. Oh, thanks. Olivia beat me to it. So if you want to read more about the different organizations and the great work that they do, yeah, just click on that link and you can see everywhere that we've got partners.
Thanks, Marian. This question, thank you, Melvine. Excuse me, sorry, losing my voice today. Melvine answered this for Danielle in the chat, but just to kind of add a little bit more. Danielle asked, are the funders who push the gag rule primarily in the US? And by funders, I took that to more mean legislators, Danielle, but please correct me if that's not what you had intended. So yes, as I just mentioned when I was talking about the domestic stuff, it's like far right extremist Republican legislators and politicians are the ones who push for the gag rule. And are also pushing for, pushed for the end of Roe and are pushing for abortion bans and restrictions on abortion and reproductive health care. Does that answer your question? Is that what you meant? Okay, great. Thank you for your question. And folks, feel free to continue dropping questions in the chat, or you can come off of mute and ask a question as well, or use the raise hand feature. Let's see. Joanna had another great question. Does Population Connection work with the LGBTQ+ community? Great question. And the answer is that yes, we do. There are obviously many important connections between issues of reproductive health and family planning and the LGBTQ+ community. Obviously, everyone in that community, needs to be able to access reproductive health care. And also there are very specific challenges specific to that community in accessing reproductive health care due to stigma and barriers and cultural barriers and, poor instruction to medical providers who are either not compassionate or not open-minded or just don't have sort of the basic training. So on the advocacy side, which is what I can speak to most, we try to partner with LGBTQ+ organizations to do events like this, Instagram Live events, talks like this. We try to provide a platform for LGBTQ+ folks and folks who work for organizations doing that work to speak about the connections between LGBTQ+ issues and reproductive health. Melvine, in one of her previous roles, Melvine worked closely with the LGBTQ+ community in Kenya, and we tried to work together to elevate the stories of people in that community there. Grace or Marian, Melvine, do you have anything else you would add to that question?
I don't think so. I think you covered it.
I think you did well, Rebecca. Yeah, and the main actually obstacle or challenge for this community has been access to reproductive health services and information, because many times they tend to be stigmatized and discriminated against. And as we know, Population Connection really promotes access to international family planning. And this is a service that provides room for access to information and services for the LGBTQI community. So yeah, you are truly right. And we also note that Population Connection currently has a division of diversity and inclusion. So really part of what we are doing, and we have no reason really as a board at Population Connection or a staff to discriminate against any individual on the basis of their sexual orientation or identity. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for that, Melvine. Really important information to add. So thank you very much. Cuthbert, this is an excellent question, and I want to say no off the top of my head, although I hope now we will be working with you more. I'm just gonna. Oh.
We actually do have one, and it's a newer partner.
We have one.
If I'm being honest, I don't know anything about this organization. I'm not the person who works on the global partner grants, but Masai Harmonial is in Tanzania too. Okay, so there, we got two. Yeah.
Olivia, do you want to say more about those organizations? Can I put you on the spot?
Sure, I can do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you see me? I can't see me.
Can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, well, my video doesn't seem to be working. So yeah, we have, as far as I know, two partners in Tanzania currently. They are called Awakening Horn for Inclusive Rural Development, or AHERD for short. So AHERD promotes gender equality and women's and girls' participation in socioeconomic development efforts in rural communities in the Mwanza region of Tanzania. And Maasai Harmonial works obviously with the Maasai community in the Ngorongoro conservation area in Tanzania. So their work is mostly focused on girls' education, so enabling access to education for girls in the Maasai community. Yeah, and you can find more about them, find out more about them on our website and on their websites as well, of course.
Thanks, Olivia. And Marion just dropped links to each organization's website or Facebook page if you want to check those out. Do folks have, those are all the questions we had compiled, but looks like all of our speakers are still on. So if other folks have questions, if you want to just come off of mute and ask a question, just keep it brief in case other people have questions as well. All right. Well, if no other questions, Marion is dropping a link to Q&A interview blogs we've done with all of our partners. Thank you all so much for joining. I do want to give shout outs to the folks who won the trivia game. We have 3 winners, Danielle D'Angelo, Danielle Robards, and Joanna London. Each had 9 correct answers. So you all will be receiving a gift card from us. Excellent work. And thanks to you all for joining and for playing the trivia game with us and for your great questions. Thanks so much to our speakers and our partners, Melvine, Sara, Cuthbert, Dickson. So glad to see you all as always. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow night at our keynote talk, as well as our advocacy training. And feel free to reach out to either Grace or me with any questions you have about the rest of Capitol Hill Days. And we hope everyone has a good afternoon. And super shout out to Grace for masterminding the trivia game.